Welcome to Forum Views, your local magazine show from Cavan TV. Remember folks, if you want to be on the show, if you want to get on the show or hear anything on the show that is of interest to you, contact us on cavantv.com or drumlinmedia@gmail.com. So Kit, who have we got on today?
Okay, well, we've got three guests with us. We have Anya Duffy, we have Charlie McAdam, and we have Rebecca O'Connor.
Excellent.
And I'm just going to let them introduce themselves. So, Anya, let's start with you.
Hi, Kate. Well, I'm Anya Duffy, and I'm originally from Cavan. I've been here all my life. And I've worked in Cavan General Hospital for 22 years now in the pharmacy department.
22 years? Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
So,
And,
are you able to avail of drugs?
Or are you just dealing them? We've talked about you on the show in previous weeks.
And no, but outside of work, I really like the art scene around Cavan Town, i.e. drama, involved in Cavan Singers, and I'm a presenter on Cavan Community Radio, which I really enjoy doing, and I'm looking forward to the FLA.
Very good.
And I take part in amateur dramatics as well. I just love those kind of things. They're great.
Well,
they're
you're
great
very
to be
lucky
involved.
because Cavan's got such a great art
It's
scene.
fantastic at the moment.
So good.
Yeah.
Charlie, tell us a bit about you.
Okay, not a lot at the minute, but over the past lucky years I've born and bred just outside Cootehill, live on a small farm, do a wee bit of work there all the time. Currently unemployed, but over the past 10 years or so I worked in community development and peace building in Cavan, Monaghan area.
Very good.
Hobbies, used to play a bit of badminton, gave that up when my knee got knackered. And
It's called age, dear, age.
yeah, could be. And still play a bit on button key accordion, so looking forward to the
very
FLA
good.
and hearing a lot of music there. So
Very good.
yeah.
And last but not least, Rebecca.
Hi, I'm from Cavan, just outside Cavan Town, and I work at 81 Church Street, which is the Moth Studios.
Yay!
I
Okay.
edit a magazine called The Moth. It's an international arts and literature magazine.
And it's beautiful, folks. I mean, it really is worth... have you got a copy here?
I have.
While Becky gets the copy there to
It's a bit
hold up
crumpled,
to the
actually.
camera. It's really beautiful. It's so artistically done. So it's poetry and short stories and then beautiful drawings beside it. It's a bit...
It is a bit crumpled.
Yeah, it's a bit crumpled.
But we also have, so we have art studios, so we run workshops in painting and writing, and we're having one tomorrow on sketch comedy with Pat McDonald.
Excellent. No, the Moth is a huge improvement for Cavan. I love it.
It's a great addition. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Very good. Well, thank you all very much for
You're all
giving us
very welcome.
your time.
Brilliant.
And we'll make a start, shall we?
Yeah, let's dive
Okay.
straight into, Rebecca, this is kind of something along the lines of the Moth. Orla Sheridan from Kilnalek wins the junior category in the All-Ireland Story Competition. So, a very jaunty, angled photograph there on the Anglo-Celt article. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's wonderful news because there were over 2,000 entries, which
Really?
is a huge, huge amount of
nationally.
people.
That's,
Nationally.
But that's brilliant.
So
it seems that Cavan really is producing a good few writers,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
it seems to be.
we're doing well on the writing scene.
Because we're
Absolutely.
brilliant. Sorry,
Naturally
it's
creative.
humbly brilliant.
Yeah.
But
I've
It's
always been good
fantastic.
at telling stories anyway, not
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
true, but
yeah, that's for sure.
This
That's
fantastic
true.
creative writing class takes place on Tuesday evenings in the library, and I think it's going to the Moth
it
next
is
week.
actually. She's
Rebecca.
moving there on Tuesday. yeah.
Absolutely wonderful. It started off with 5 or 6 people.
Are you in the group? You
Yeah,
are?
I am,
Oh,
yeah.
great.
And it started with 5 or 6 people, now it's up to 10 or 12.
And then
And
the Moth
the
has 4 or
diversity of
5,
the
so it's going to
people.
be 15 people then.
brilliant.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah, very good. So congratulations to Orla. Does anyone know what her story was about?
It was to do with
Yeah.
It's to do with energy.
using exercise.
Yeah, to
To
powering
power
electricity
energy,
using
yeah,
exercise.
yeah.
And it's about
People
powering from the
exercising.
people. That was the
Yes.
title
Power
of her
from
story.
Very
people.
clever.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
very,
is.
very good.
It's a
And I
great
noticed
idea.
as well there's another short story competition that the Virginia Festival is running.
Yes.
I'm not sure if it's just for children or adults.
No, I
but
think it's for adults.
It's adults
as well. But it's a weird theme, isn't it? What was it? It was a bit
It's something
Troubled
to
times
do
in
with
Ireland.
troubled
yeah.
times in Ireland.
So if you folks,
Won't
if
be
you have
hard.
400 words on
Actually.
troubled times in Ireland,
Well, I think we could probably get 400 from the next few stories.
oh yeah.
I'm telling you, going
Definitely.
through the papers these days, it's really getting hard.
But look,
to
let's
find
let's
light
keep
easy.
with the light stories. The
Okay.
next one is light again. I like this biodiversity buzz. School children buzzing about biodiversity. and it's all about schools working with the council, and the council bringing them on free nature walks and just appreciating biodiversity in the area. And it's brilliant to have it, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that the schools are really beginning to take off on, this kind of work. Like, a lot of schools now would have community gardens, you know, little gardens where the kids are growing stuff. And this actually is about bees, because bees, of course, I think we're losing the bees, particularly this year for some reason, because of the weather.
Yeah, because of all the rain, yeah.
Yeah.
Affected by the rain. But it's wonderful, because like with the children's short story competition, it's targeting children is the answer.
Yeah.
When it comes to that sort of thing, as well as the art, you know, to get when they're young.
Absolutely.
Well,
butterflies as well, I heard. That we're losing butterflies at the moment because of the weather.
But if you go to Lidl, you can buy butterfly hotels.
Can you?
They're small,
really?
like little butterfly houses, and you just hang them up. But you can make them. We made them for the fair.
Butterflies don't go into
tiny little funnels of cardboard, and it attracts them. The shapes attract butterflies, so they go there. Yeah.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah.
It's good to make the kids aware of
yeah,
nature, that
that's
it's,
the
how
key.
it's here, there, and also like what hasn't happened in the last 10, 15 years. People were not minding nature. We were just regardless of it. And going back to that now, and with children in school, that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
So?
And I see some of the schools seem to have sort of attempted for a stack of pallets to create a sort of a garden for biodiversity.
Insect hotels they're called as well. They're putting them into the Green Lake Park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing, like just put
insect
straw.
hotels.
Yeah, they call them hotels just to make it more fun and attractive for kids to develop.
Very simple to do, just stack the pallets and fill the holes with different materials that'll attract animals and insects and stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let's try that in the garden. I hadn't thought of that.
We tried one once, but it got burnt.
Okay.
So, on to our next story.
Okay, so on that sad note,
ashes are good for attracting
troubled
insects.
times in Ireland, eh?
Yeah.
It's another nice story because he escaped. This is the story about the pilot who crashed in
Friday the
Wicklow.
13th.
And the plane just dropped on Friday the 13th. Yeah.
So a lot of our viewers in the Cavan area know Keith, German from Swallen, and he was flying in Wicklow and just engine failure.
Plane just stopped.
Yeah.
Midair.
Very lucky.
Terrifying.
This is the same young lad who tried to take my sister up in his plane to impress her, and I'm really thankful she didn't go for it. So.
But he must have nerves of steel, really, to deal with that kind of
he
situation.
said he did a lot more damage to himself climbing out of the ditch that he crashed into rather than the actual crash. So.
But he was one of the youngest people in Ireland to qualify. So
really?
Yeah. Something like 15.
So did he get back into another plane? You know the way you should get back up on the horse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't know. Presumably he did.
Would they let him after crashing a new Citroen?
Absolutely. It's not just as handy as a horse, is it?
Okay, let's move on.
Well, speaking of things dropping from the sky or dropping, we're on to the Quinn story.
Okay. What do people think about Quinn? When we discuss Quinn normally here, there's always a for and against. Now at the moment we've got the junior son, Sean Quinn Jr. in jail. We've got Sean Quinn Sr. being given a bit more time to try and sort out the financial issues, the investments that he's made. And then the young nephew,
Peter
Quinn, who's gone AWOL. Yeah. So what do you think, guys?
Well, apparently he's north of the border.
So
that's what the report claims. Allegedly.
They can't.
But because it's not a criminal offence, they can't.
He's out of the jurisdiction, isn't that what the saying is? But you see there as well, did you see the people who are supporting Quinn in the areas like Ballyconnell and you were saying even in Ghana and everything, coming out like in force saying we support Sean Quinn because of the employment that he gave. Yeah. And you can see that because he did stop immigration from a very poor part of the country in poor times.
Yeah, absolutely. And he created energy and jobs and you know, people are saying you can already see the decline in Belturbet and certainly in Ballyconnell as a result of the businesses going. So of course people are going to feel supportive of him, you know, because he did so much. But on the other hand, he also embezzled, allegedly, not embezzled, but you know what he did. He diverted funds from trying to avoid, you know, the debt to Anglo-Irish Bank and, you know, moving the assets out of reach, so to speak. So, and did you hear what the judge said in the week? You know, he was saying that increasingly he's getting court cases where there's people from the kind of white collar and regulation finance, you know, that are great trickery. What did he call it? He had that great phrase for it. And he says that he'd never seen anything like the Quins, and the amount of what was the word that he used?
I think it was
myriad.
Trickery. Myriad of
you know.
That's why people can't really have an opinion on that kind of thing, because I can't understand it. I can't understand that business. You know what this is all about, really. You know what I mean? And people are purporting to be experts in this. Oh, we shouldn't have done this. Shouldn't have that. That was gambling. This, that, and the other. But this is all new. People don't. You know, this is all new kind of stuff. Like, what is the real story?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he.
I know, but people are all having. The point I'm making is
right,
people are having
the average
opinions.
person doesn't
And-
really
No.
understand.
Yeah, absolutely doesn't
complexities
understand
of
it.
No.
Yeah.
But
it's not
he's
that
not above.
complex.
He's not
Oh,
above
it is.
law.
It
That's-
is when it
No,
starts taking
it's-
other companies within companies and that sort of thing, and one company is supporting another, and if you pull away the support for that company, you know, I don't understand it. I mean, I don't purport to, but a lot of people are now.
Yeah, but isn't it surely just that if he owes the bank money, which he does, you know, he borrowed
But
lots
how
of
did
money
the
from the
bank-
bank, and rather than paying them back, he's put it out, he's given it over and invested in Russia.
But
That's fairly simple
But didn't
to
you
understand.
hear the story that the bank rang him up, asked him, did he want the shares, and they wanted to lend him the money to buy the shares?
That was much previous to this. though.
Yeah, that's
Much
not related
years
to
previous.
I
this.
know, but it's
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
it's all
No, it's
hard to
definitely
understand.
complex.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
definitely complex.
It's very sad. It's very sad for the communities that are affected. But
Yeah.
he's not above the law, and you know, he's got to face up to the consequences of his actions.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, at least he's saying that to his nephew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, face the music, Petey.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I know in other court scenarios where assets are involved, like they talk about, you know, declaring your assets and your means, and
Yeah.
surely if that was done properly, it was there, and if they had control of them, it should be into the Irish taxpayers that is going, rather than being diverted, allegedly.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know, it's a very sad situation. So there's another story that we could write about in the Troubles,
Yeah.
recent Troubles. So let's move on to it's the Coot Hill becoming a ghost town, is it?
Measures are needed to prevent Coot Hill becoming a ghost town, apparently. We have a Coot Hill man here with us today. So
What are you going to do,
Charlie,
Charlie?
Charlie, how long have you been living in the Coot Hill area?
In the good area, all my life.
Okay,
So how's it changed?
yeah.
You just have to walk down the street, and it's actually quite sad the number of empty business premises that were on the go during my lifetime, and particularly over the last, I suppose, 10-15 years, the number of businesses that have went or come and gone,
Right,
that have tried to
okay.
kick off and just didn't manage it. And it's actually a wee bit eerie if you take a look down the street in the early hours of the morning and look at the number of people that actually have businesses and live on the main street in the town.
yeah.
Very, very few.
Okay.
What sort of businesses closed down? All sorts.
All sorts, yeah.
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 But it was even during the boom time they were closing.
They were coming and going
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
at that stage.
So they were
There's-
struggling to
Yeah, but
to make
at this stage they'd be very, very rare to have a new one opening,
But
but they'd
surely
still be
that's the
closed.
same for every town, not just Coot Hill. I mean, look, Cavan is much the same.
It would be the same for a lot of towns, yeah, absolutely.
It's the sign of the times.
The small businesses are struggling with the
Well,
overheads.
someone was
Unfortunately-
saying to me
Well,
that it was
well-
very, it was a great market town.
It was.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was it?
But unfortunately, one of the things that I had a discussion with someone from Chamber of Commerce recently, that one of the worst things about this recession is not necessarily the breakdown of business, but it's businesses that would have survived the recession in the 80s.
Yeah.
It would be long, decades old, through generations, and they just fail, you know.
Yeah.
Just
And why is that happening in this recession?
usually lack of support.
Right.
You know,
okay,
it's
because they
overdraft
can't get
facilities. Because you
credit.
didn't have a banking crisis during the 80s recession, you could still get some credit to keep you going.
And how much, I wonder, is the FLA keeping Cavan Town
Yeah.
bustling, you know?
Yeah.
350,000 people coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still don't understand why those businesses that, if a business is in a family for generations, they don't have to, you know, they're not newly mortgaged or anything like that. How come they can't survive? Is it because of the multi-shops, like the big shops, like Lidl and
Well,
that? Or,
presumably that makes a difference,
Yeah.
but also you have to kind of keep diversifying, don't you? I mean, you can't
Yeah.
just keep selling nails.
I know a lot
you
of,
have to
like,
start
drapers.
selling. You have to start
Yeah.
selling, the machinery that works the nails, and if you haven't got the credit to buy the machinery
Yeah.
that works the nails, then And
That's like,
a lot
have you
of
seen
business.
this program called Bank of Days on the television?
Yeah.
my mum was telling me about
Book.
it.
He has a book, hasn't he? A book out
Has
as
he?
well.
Yeah, I think he
Yeah.
has. He set up this tiny little bank in Burnley, and so he could loan money to the local
He
community.
was selling cars first, Rebecca, wasn't he?
I think he made his millions selling
making
cars. Yeah,
and then
yeah.
or doing
Go on,
taxis.
Becky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's going around to little businesses just like that.
Right.
They need £1,000 to buy a new oven so they can make a particular kind of
Okay.
bread or whatever
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
And he's turning businesses around in the community. He's getting people to invest the money in the bank. He's giving them, huge interest on their investment, and then it's all going straight back into the
that's
small
it's
community, which is
brilliant,
great.
isn't it? Didn't he run into some problems? Or
Oh
something
yeah,
with the
everybody.
regulators?
Everyone he went to see when he was trying to set it up said, "No, you can't do this. No, no,
Yeah.
and he just ignored them
ignored
and he
them.
ploughed on, and he found a way around.
Very
things, you
good.
know,
Yeah,
Brilliant.
no,
Brilliant.
Yeah.
must watch it.
Need
next
one of
week.
those in Coot Hill, I think. Maybe
Yeah.
Charlie, Bank of Charlie.
Well, just to get back to the Coot Hill story, actually. Well, go on,
Yeah,
Charlie.
well, I think Coot Hill had one of the best, most novel initiatives in the country as regards to buy one get one free when they had the ATM rate, like buy one get another one a couple of doors down. And I think that's actually partly to do with it's such a quiet street. It was maybe a bit easier to do it.
Yeah.
But there's not many towns can say they've done a deal like that on offer.
But
Brilliant.
maybe that is an idea, because I think going back to that story,
the
what
ATM?
they want, what they want is to, they need ideas about taking it forward, because what the councillors were saying at their meeting is, that businesses can't be asked to be paying the rates that they're being asked to
Yeah.
pay.
Yeah.
And it should be based on the income that they're coming. I don't quite know how that would work, but they want ideas, and they're meeting up with the Chamber of Commerce about really what to do.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't just be meeting with the Chamber of Commerce. Charlie, go along, you'd have
Yeah.
great ideas.
It should be open to the community in
Yeah.
general as a whole, because it is impacting on the community.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Because they were
is.
saying that a shop in Coot Hill would pay the same rates as a shop in Drogheda,
Yeah.
which just doesn't make sense.
No.
Does it?
No, no,
A
that's
smaller
not.
population.
Yeah. Anyway, we don't know even if they'll
No.
be here much longer.
Well, look, on that happy note,
Yeah.
we're going to go for a break, and we'll be back after this.
Okay.
Pat Short here. You're watching Cavan TV.
Welcome back to. We're back, kid. Put that drink up. Put your vodka away, kid. Allegedly. Welcome back to Forum Views. Kicking the microphones, destroying everything. And tonight we have on Anya Duffy, Charlie McAdam, and Rebecca O'Connor. So very welcome. And we're in the middle of the local stories, and we're still staying with a local story with the Cavan man threatened with jail if he doesn't pay an electrician. It's an interesting story.
Yeah, well, it's a debt, isn't it? He owed this electrician money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
€2,300. But the reason why I particularly picked out this story is because, well, I'll just read it. Though he said he only drank occasionally, Smith, who was discovered, had only paid one instalment order of €100 to date, also replied, "Everybody is entitled to a social life," to which the judge rounded, "Not when you owe this man money."
So, are we entitled to a social life when you owe other people money?
Or in an age of austerity, do you have to sacrifice it to pay the bills?
Social life doesn't always cost a lot. You can get away with a bit less.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What, a drink?
Oh, €100 a week.
Yeah.
That's not much to... it depends on the situation, I suppose.
You know, you'd be a lot happier if you paid your bills. When you really,
I think
Most
so.
people would.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd only paid one instalment of €100 when he still owed 2,300.
Mhm.
I don't know that the judge has the right to say that, though. You know, that the judge has the right to say, well, you can't go to the pub and have a social life if you know, if you owe money.
You think no?
I don't think no, I don't think anyone should say that, really.
He just
You
said
can
But he
say
said
to
that he
people-
needed to socialise.
he just said you have to pay. He
Yeah.
didn't say
Yeah.
you can't drink.
Yeah.
He said you
Yeah.
have
Well,
to
he
pay.
said you can't have a social life.
Yeah, you
But
can't have
that's
a
because he
social life
brought
when
it
you
up,
owe
didn't he?
this
He
man
said, "Oh, I
money.
need it." Yeah.
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 He probably meant you can't have
That
that
was-
expensive
kind of
a social life while you owe this
And
man
like
money.
you say, you can socialise in other
You
ways.
can,
You don't want
absolutely.
to be in the pub
Mhm.
Yeah.
every night, or
But obviously, like, I mean, there is a great need for people to be educated in budgeting and stuff like that. I mean, if you're looking down the line, unless you have unforeseen circumstances, 2,300 debt, you shouldn't be having a social life that's going to exceed €100 a week.
No, you have
No.
to have some sense of personal responsibility.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
I mean, he seems to have this sense of entitlement that, you
Mhm.
know, of course I should be allowed to.
And the
To go
courts
out
are usually lenient. If you on an electricity bill or something like that, on standard bills, if you even show a willingness to pay a tiny bit, courts
Yeah.
will be very lenient. In this case, probably wasn't.
Well, so is the issue then that people don't take their debt seriously enough? That
Yeah.
everyone
It was
is,
a weak-
is now
weak
in so
defence.
much
Yeah, it was
debt
such
that,
a
you
credit
know,
culture, I suppose.
Yeah.
People are so
Yeah.
used to being in
I think
debt that
that's
they
more
don't.
likely.
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah,
weak
so-
defence from his solicitor, wasn't it? Really, like
So- say that again?
a weak defence, like that he had to have a social life. That's why he couldn't pay his
Yeah.
bills. That's
Yeah.
a rather weak,
Yeah, it is.
sort of a
It was a
pathetic
silly-
defence
silly
in this
thing to
day and
say.
age, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really.
Okay, well, I think we've got a...
Of course, we're
We've got a
Pay our
line on that
bills.
one now.
judge and jury. Of course, we're talking abstractly here because we don't know the specifics behind this
Yeah.
particular
Absolutely.
individual's
No,
case.
it's just
but
the issue that
yeah,
we wanted to
the issue
raise.
is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on.
Speaking of more issues, let's go on something happier. Oh no, household charge rebels hurt council. Local authority calls emergency meeting. This story is, but the local council is short €1.67 million this year, because allegedly the county managers claimed that the household charge wasn't paid up.
15,000
People
households
haven't
haven't
paid.
Yeah.
paid. Yeah.
Now, the issue I would have with this is that, what kind of budgeting, and we're going back to budgeting again, what kind of budgeting from the government says you need to budget a year in advance based on unpredictable payments that you're
Absolutely,
trying to be
yeah.
getting? That's...
And we never had that tax until this year.
Yeah.
So,
No.
I mean, that's crazy.
And it seems to me unfair that it's up to the local authority to gather in the property tax, that the government have told them, when the government have already acknowledged that that's not going to be done next year,
Yeah.
that revenue are going to do it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how Cavan County Council is going to get
Have they
through
started
this.
sending-
1.67 million is a lot of money to
Yeah.
find.
Sure.
And Cavan the county council's been doing so well in terms of its roads, in terms of its arts, its supports for the community. It is such a shame.
If
they're
it goes
not-
back to
they're not
how it
being
was in the 80s, when I was a kid in
the
Cavan,
roads.
the potholes, oh
Yeah.
my god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get
So,
back to what you're saying, but
I don't know
sorry.
what's...
Sorry, Charlie.
Get back to what you're saying about the budgeting. Like, it seems to me that it was a very ill thought out plan to bring in a 1 year levy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Considering the amount of hassle it's caused for householders, council, government, and
Yeah, the
everybody
administration involved.
for it to only be here for 1 year
Mm.
to set it up and then
Yeah.
undo it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it was never popular to start with, and I'm sure
No,
They
but
should
what
be
they've
reasonably
got
in touch.
What they've got a result of it now is that they will have a database so that they can, the next set of taxes, we're all there and waiting to
Yeah.
pay them.
well,
Well,
if the database is from those that have paid, it's not a very complete database.
No, but I suppose the other side of it as well is that the claim was made, if you pay this, it will increase local amenities.
That's right.
But if it's going to increase, why are we short 1.7 million?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
It's bad math.
Yeah, bad math. That's essentially it. That's a good summary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's head on to we're moving on to national news. So thank you to the Anglo Celt for those, and we've taken from the Irish Times this week, haven't we,
Yeah,
Kate?
and a couple from the Indo.
The Independent as well.
Yeah.
So revenue to collect new tax on property directly into our subject
To what we were
again.
discussing before, yeah,
Mhm.
because you see, I don't understand how they can expect the local authorities to collect this tax, and they obviously don't, because they're saying revenue is the only person. Yet they're still saying you can't have the 1.67 million until you've collected it. So
Yeah.
I mean, the government, it just doesn't make sense in its, in what it's saying.
There seems to be a lack of communication between local authority and government level. Government doesn't seem to listen or have an intelligent strategy.
Government doesn't listen, I don't think.
No, so allegedly.
And
So
these new laws and things always gets the government by surprise, really, doesn't it? Like bringing legislation, they don't seem to be ready for it themselves.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. You'd think they didn't draft the bills or anything like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
They just assume
It just
everybody
seems
will
like they don't,
robotically
yeah.
pay €100
Yeah.
immediately.
Listening to the
Yeah.
radio during the week, some guy who had a couple of houses and had paid his house tax, and he was getting letters to say to say he hadn't.
Right.
So that goes to show you that it's
It's not well thought out.
No.
organised.
Okay. Well, presumably they could send him the letters because he had registered.
Yeah, how does
so
he
that
know
they
he
had
has a
his address
house?
to
Yeah.
send them to.
That's the point he was
Whereas
trying to make.
people who haven't
And also,
haven't
Kate,
registered their
when he rang
addresses
them back-
can't be getting the letters.
And when he
So-
tried to ring them back to tell them this, it was like one of those 1850 phone lines that cost a fortune to tell them that he had paid it.
Oh no, the whole thing's crazy. Let's move
Yeah.
on. I tell you, this show is going to be full of ideas for the Troubles in Cavern's short stories.
House prices.
Oh yeah,
To,
still falling.
Oh yeah.
we had our
Still
happy
falling.
story a few months ago about house prices hitting
Stabilised.
a recovery period, and now we're hitting a decrease. So
So double dip
Double.
for houses.
mm.
So yeah, I mean, but in Dublin it's quite high, isn't it? I think the next
We've
slide
some
there shows some
statistics
figures.
here. Yeah,
Where I think it's 16%, 16.4%
There it
that
is,
they've
there on the
fallen
TV.
by.
and the rest is the 13.5% dip in percentage change. So
That's huge, isn't it?
Mm.
gigantic. Yeah.
And then overall, wasn't it? The house prices have fallen by 57%, I think,
Mhm. Yeah,
something like that.
57% drop in
Yeah.
Dublin, 47% for the rest of the state since
Yeah.
2007. So it's quite a huge drop in
Mm.
value.
Mm.
God help anybody who bought property in 2007.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wonder will they ever bring in legislation for people who want to actually get out of a mortgage? And say if you had 200,000 of a mortgage and you could sell your house for 120, will they ever bring in legislation to cover for the shortfall in your mortgage?
No.
Because they haven't. And will they ever?
No,
Is
no,
there
they
any
won't.
sort of support for people? Any sort of comeback or whatever?
No, they won't.
Because
And
they won't
eventually
cater
it
for
will.
defaulters,
it will.
they won't cater
But
for...
no,
No.
they won't. They won't at all. But eventually the market will go back up. I mean, I
It'll
remember
never
in
go up to what?
No, not to what it
Probably
was.
not for a long
way.
while.
Because
No,
they were-
over time, I
But
think
Kate,
it
at
will
what
probably-
cost? The danger is you'll go back up and create another bubble.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I don't
No,
know.
no, it
That's-
won't
No, that
happen.
can't
We'll be
The
all
prices
It
are
has
retired.
so
to-
inflated. They couldn't
Yeah.
possibly.
It has to be a slow growth
Very
rather
slow,
than
sustainable,
Yeah.
slow.
Mm.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
no good for middle-aged
No,
people.
it's not. It's not,
Yeah.
definitely not.
Charlie's obviously a man of experience here. Obviously a man of experience.
So I'll be able to have a valuable property to sell when I'm retired.
Of course, it's nice for people who are starting out who do
Yeah.
have the
Yeah.
means to buy a house.
Yeah.
Actually, I have friends abroad who have contacted me to ask me to look for property to buy now. They're eager to buy property in Ireland.
Selling my house.
We'll talk after the show.
Okay,
So,
so moving on then.
Councillors.
House prices falling, councils being cut, councillors going, town
Is this
councils
good or
going.
bad?
Big Phil says that he's going to cut the number of councillors and he's going to cut a number of local authorities. And I assume he's talking about the town councils.
As
that
much
we
as
have
the,
we have a system
But
where
they've
there are
not been saying
county
that in
councils
years.
and town councils. So,
But he
what do you think?
made the funny thing is he made this statement in Glenties in Donegal during the week when hundreds of demonstrators were outside trying to rip him to pieces at the
Yeah.
same time. So it was
Yeah.
ironic
Allegedly.
that what is it? He's going to drag the system of local government into the 21st century. That's his quote. While the people are trying to drag him through the streets and lynch him. So
Drag after drag.
another case of lack of communication or lack of reality for some government ministers. Yeah.
But are there not too many councillors?
Yes, I think there are.
I think like a lot of corporations in this country and institutions, whatever. There's too much middle management and too many
Yeah.
people trying
They've
to.
been saying that for years.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
they're going to, when they're doing something about it.
Well, I
Or
think- no,
would
I
it
think
not
this is-
rather be we should reform local government and maybe reduce some of the top heavy in in national government.
Well,
Well,
it's
we can do both.
this
There's
is
no reason why,
see,
you know,
I do
we shouldn't-
think the town councils, probably the work that they do can be covered by the county council. You know, so I do think there's a layer of bureaucracy there
Could be
that
done
isn't
without.
needed.
It's not needed,
But at the
yeah.
same time, I really do feel that local government actually needs to be reformed more than this. More has to be done. So reform is really important. You have to look at the responsibilities that the councillors have, that the officers have. People should be having more of an input into local government. They should be seen to be working, and we should be more of a part of it. You know,
Yeah.
I think local people.
So restructuring rather than
Yeah,
just
but that's going to take
going
years.
I think we need reform. We should be looking after education ourselves. Department of Education is so far removed from what happens in Cavan. It's so difficult to access. We should be looking after social services in Cavan, you know. I think that we should be responsible for the services that are provided that we want.
But that's local
the sort of-
empowerment. That's
Yeah.
not
No,
a general
that's-
strategy of the
sort of
government.
civil
the-
pride and
That's the
Yeah.
reform we need.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but just cutting the town councils, I agree with it. It just doesn't go far enough, and it's a real shame.
Yeah, I think most people, with the exception probably of public representatives, feel there are too many public representatives at all levels. And I think a good example of that is actually, if you look at TDs or councillors, if someone has a problem with either a road or a medical card and they can't get it sorted, they go to the office and get it sorted that way.
Yeah.
Whereas I believe the role of the public rep should be to fix the system, that every individual knows if they go to the council or the HSE, their problem will be sorted instead of having to add another layer to it.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That they should be fixing the system rather than the individual cases.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and this is what we need to be seeing. It's interesting because, you know, the government is introducing new legislation, like the new children's legislation and also the justice. So they are looking at those changes. But on local government, and they are supposed to be reforming local government, but it's been so long.
But there are a lot of precedents. Like the children's legislation is coming now is almost identical to Children's First, which wasn't implemented properly.
I know.
So it's again rehashing stuff that's at a huge cost.
Yeah.
Or look at the HSE; it's going to be reformed now into new health boards, like you said
It's
last
a
week.
mess.
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that. They're directorates.
The directorates,
But
sorry,
we
Yeah.
still don't even know what
board
they are.
directorates. So
It takes so long for anything to happen in that line.
Yeah,
doesn't
and
it?
that's
Doesn't
and
take-
people become
and at the same time,
frustrated
the
and
same
cynical.
stuff is going on and on and on. It's
Yeah.
nearly a culture, really, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a real problem. But some things are happening because this week rather, we had the arrests of, who was it? It was Sean Fitzpatrick.
Sean Fitzpatrick,
Pat
Pat Whelan, and Willie McAteer.
Yeah.
So there's Shawnee there, looking a bit
Looking rather
gobsmacked,
startled.
and
I felt sorry for him.
Yeah.
Like, come on,
You
he was
felt
just,
sorry for
yeah,
him?
he was just coming back
Oh
off the
my
plane,
God,
off his
I
hop.
know.
Wish I could get away.
Really joking. I was.
I'm surprised he can still afford to get on a plane when some of the results of his
he was just
actions.
after coming off
The
a
taxpayer
plane
owes
and he's
29 to
arrested.
34 billion euros to one bank. We still don't even know how many billion euros. Somewhere between 29 and 34. Man shouldn't be going on a plane. That's my personal opinion, allegedly.
Those guys thought they were above the law, really, didn't they?
Well, I think a lot of people actually think they're above the law.
Maybe we
I-
didn't
I-
have
because
the
it wasn't-
specific laws to get them
It
quickly. That's the thing. And maybe, these kind of prosecutions that may be coming, or these court cases, will set a good precedent where we can actually have white collar crime targeted and criminal.
See, it's totally new, this white
Yeah.
collar crime here. Now, before this, it was, but now it's there, and we have to do something about it.
Yeah.
And it's,
Oh, I don't
sorry,
know.
it's possible that thinking above the law was nearly natural because a lot of the regulations that were there as regards the whole financial system didn't seem to be enforced.
No.
A blind eye turned. Like I know if I was doing accounts for a year end and there was money coming in from somewhere else and then disappearing early the next year,
Yeah.
it'd be caught by an accountant. Any accountant would caught the like of that.
Yeah.
And obviously somebody was not doing their job and
Yeah.
missing out on some basic
Well,
stuff like that.
Clearly, the regulators weren't doing their job.
No. So that would tend to indicate, well, they're not enforcing the law, so we can get away with whatever we want.
But that's always been a bit of an issue for a long time, hasn't it? The law enforcement. I mean, do you remember when at first all this, they introduced all the penalty points and the
Yeah.
speeding,
Mhm.
and that wasn't implemented. And it's there's so much legislation which has been produced, National Anti-Poverty Strategy, all those kinds of things. that have never been implemented.
Well, the thing, I mean, the Company Law Acts are there, and they've been in breach of 16 of those Company Law Acts. So if the maximum penalty is enforced, it's 5 years in prison, and 16 multiplied by €3,700. So 3,700 euros is which is peanuts to these people, and of course it's going to be a suspended sentence. So
and then where are you going to put these people anyway? You can't put them into the hardcore custodians or places, can you?
Force them to do community work. Plenty of stuff to do around Cavan. I can put them to work for hours.
Well, it's
they can fill in the potholes.
Yes. We can fill in the potholes with them.
They could clean along the streets and stop the drains from blocking when it rains. That should be done,
I wonder what will happen. I wonder what will happen to them. Will they end up in prison? I don't know.
Or will it just be another tribunal type thing?
It's difficult to know, isn't it? Okay, well, on that other sad note again, we're going to have to cheer up, guys. We're going to go to an ad break. Okay, welcome back to Forum Views, your magazine show on Cavan TV. And tonight with us we have Rebecca O'Connor and Charlie McAdam and Anya Duffy. And we're actually talking about the national issues at the moment, and we're all getting extremely depressed. Charlie had a very good idea, didn't you, Charlie?
Yeah, I really think the Beano should have been on your reading list.
I think that's dead on. I think we might do that next time.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next story is about the emergency funding of the 36 million for CIE. Apparently they're in debt. Would you believe?
No. In debt? No.
Yeah,
CIE received a subvention from the state of 265 million in 2011, which was due to fall 242 million this year, but it hasn't.
It's just miserable, isn't it? And why are they giving 36 million to CIE when it's obviously been badly managed, and there are incompetent people there who are not running allegedly, I should say, who are not running our public transport system very well. I mean, public transport, we all use it. Buses, trains.
The cost of the trains, the cost of the buses should even up. I mean, I really think that some of these people in the top levels of these organisations should be sent back to basic junior cert business studies. You have on one side your outgoings and on this side your income, and you got to match them up.
I know, but the weirdest thing is that the cost of travel is so expensive as well.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable that they're not making it work.
It's cheaper to fly from Donegal Airport to Farranfore and Kerry than it is to get the bus.
Yeah.
So there's an example.
Yeah.
But still, having said that,
for you, but
having said that, though, it is still cheaper to go on the bus to Dublin, return, than go up to drive up to Dublin in your car, park, and come back.
it is. Yeah. It
We
is.
are having to go back to use public transport. Having said
But
that,
that's
again,
because
you could see
fuel
a bus.
costs are so high.
Yeah. But you could see a bus, the 11 o'clock bus, going to Dublin with 6 people on it.
Yes.
Maybe coming home with 2 on it. You know what I mean? So they run these buses on the hour. Doesn't matter if there's 1 or 2; they still have to go. So that's not cost effective, is it?
No.
No, although we were all delighted when that happened to have that service, and same with the
Many
airport airport bus, you know, it's a great thing to have. But
Yeah.
When
if they
it's
don't
on
have the
time.
numbers, when it's on time, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't get me started.
Getting to the airport can be very stressful.
Yes.
On the number
Yeah.
30 bus. No, and the other thing, of course, about this was that the private operators who do
They were
run
forced to.
fairly efficient services, I know why are CIE being bailed out?
Yeah, exactly.
And the private sector, which works extremely hard to run an effective bus service, doesn't. It's so frustrating.
Mhm.
So frustrating. So I don't know. Anyway,
Anyway, Dan,
That's-
just on the point of the 36 million for
Yeah.
CIE,
Mhm.
do you know how much the opening ceremony of the Olympics is going to cost tonight?
How much?
tell me, 36.
35 sterling.
Really?
35
ceremony,
million
that's-
sterling
yeah, I read
for
that
one
today.
night's events.
Yeah, and obviously, I love reading the fringe stuff around the,
Yeah.
the Olympics, and they had a pre thing of it before one night ago, and they asked everybody who went to it not to photograph anything, not to tell anybody the surprises, not to spill anything that was going to happen at this opening ceremony, so that it would be a big surprise for the millions.
I'm recording
TV.
it actually. I think it's on at the moment.
Yeah,
is it?
yeah.
I'm
Well, it's
recording
costing
it.
But nobody's
36
watching because
million.
they're all tuned into Cavan TV. This doesn't cost us 37 million sterling to put this on.
Actually, maybe we should start charging, Danielle.
Oh yeah.
Hey guys, what about it?
Start from tonight.
Okay, so let's move on then. Back still with money. We got 5.2 billion on the bond market when we returned yesterday. We'll have some of that, please.
So will we get anything? No, we won't get anything. It'll just reduce the amount we have to pay back on our debts. So
It'll help contribute to paying the bond holders, presumably.
yeah.
Those bankers that
Well,
we're paying.
we are going to be paying 1 billion in unsecured bonds to AIB unsecured bond holders at October 1st. So I mean,
Oh,
there's-
that'll help.
That's okay. That'll help and go towards that.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So it's not going to actually change our
No.
frontline services.
No,
it's
it
not
doesn't.
going to.
There's a hole in the bucket, dear Lila.
Yeah.
Oh, there is a hole
Actually,
in the
that
bucket
brings
there.
me to an interesting article during the week, which I should have included here, folks. But if you try and get the Guardian from during the week, it covered a story about the amount of tax the super rich has transferred out of countries into offshore bank accounts. In total, comes to about 24 trillion euros since
And how many
2008.
super rich are there? Did it say?
9,200
So
altogether.
9,200
people have transferred
23 trillion.
23
So
trillion
what's a
euros.
trillion?
Million,
What's a
million, million.
A million, million,
Million.
Yeah, million euros.
But that kind
And who are the super rich? Is that like pop stars like Bono and
Who knows?
of, no, it's
Yeah.
no, it's
No.
not. But no.
People like
Presume-
Kate
what
who
was
can
he-
retire.
Was it Bill Gates? Wouldn't he be?
It actually targeted by country the tax transfer and said the Middle Eastern countries are particularly high on
So
the
the oil rich
The oil
people,
sheiks.
yeah, hugely high, and the United States is top, of course. But
yeah.
But this goes back to what you said, Anya. It all just becomes unfathomable.
Mhm.
You don't understand it
Yeah.
at all, and
Cormac
so you just
McCann
can't
has a
make
song.
sense of it.
Have you heard Cormac McCann sing his song? I don't understand £5 billion or whatever. It's
Yeah.
really funny. It's
Yeah.
great. It's kind of rap.
No, I must have a listen to that.
It's funny though when a story breaks, everybody knows all about business, and we all become experts overnight, but we don't really understand that.
No.
But even the supposed experts turn
Don't
out not to know
understand.
anything.
Face
either, so-
value, yeah.
But I think
And
we've
that's
mentioned on this.
begun to come through
Mhm.
actually. When you're
It's all-
reading the newspaper now,
Yeah.
you suddenly begin to realise these people
They
aren't
don't have a clue
experts
either.
No.
at all.
Yeah.
That everyone's talking up their
Bluffing.
proverbial.
Yeah.
You know.
But and we have mentioned on the show before. One of the strategies to keep people in the dark is that you confuse them and make people think they don't understand, so that they just go, "Oh, the number is too big. I can't understand." But in actual fact, when you bring it down to instead of 5.2 billion, if you just put it down to 52 euros, then and do it in your head, you'll understand why it doesn't work out.
So you think that there's a big conspiracy?
Always. No,
Yeah.
I don't deal in conspiracy theory. I deal in conspiracy fact, right?
Right.
And we'll have a special show on talking about all of these things that's going on, right?
That's going on.
That's going on.
Alleged,
going on
alleged
around
things.
Alleged things that's happening in the
You
hedges, in
have
the
to say
hedge funds.
alleged.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Ah,
let's
look.
move on. Talking of hedge funds, we'll
Hedges, hedge funds, and conspiracies. Go ahead for Chagask.
on GM potatoes. There's no potatoes?
Yeah, apparently the government has said there's absolutely no problem with bringing GM potatoes into the country, and they're coming into the Teagasc Crops Research Centre in Oak Park in Carlow.
Oh, I can't wait. I think they'll be really tasty, won't they? What does GM mean? Genetically modified?
Modified,
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Hard to
that
beat the
means
roosters though.
Genetically mutated or modified?
Modified.
Modified.
So it's just to get rid of
It's
it,
conspiracy
so to produce
theory.
potatoes that have no disease. So
Yeah.
that's not the,
Yeah.
In case we have a famine.
Well, the unfortunate thing with GM, and I've read a little bit behind this, the unfortunate thing with GM crops is that it's kind of like a one breed of crop. So that when you use it over generation, eventually it starts to mutate because it's like inbreeding. But it's a stronger breeding capacity, so it outbreeds all of the other varieties and kills them off. So then you're left with one inbred crop at the end of it.
Mutant.
That's it. Yeah.
A mutant potato.
I
Well, I
don't
mean-
understand the inbred bit. I mean, you don't mix a rooster with a Kerr's pink, do you?
No, but
no, so
but if you mix
from
rooster, and you never introduce over years, if you never introduce any new kind of genetic crop into it, it'll start to stunt. It's like becoming genetically fallow.
What are you talking about? A rooster? You get a rooster and you plant your rooster and it grows another rooster.
It grows
And
another
it goes
rooster, but
on and
over
on.
time you need to replenish the crop with new genetic material.
Like what?
You mean
Every
plant a
few
different type of
generations.
potato?
Exactly.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Why don't you just say that?
Science speak.
Anyway,
Okay.
I know, but I accept your point about that they actually dominate other. They dominate other species, or not species.
Well, other
Varieties.
crop.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the word I'm looking
Good
for.
word.
Thank God you're here. Running out of words, Sarah.
Told you I was a bit of a farmer, didn't I?
You grow potatoes.
No.
Farmer. So tell us, what do you think about GM?
Well, your point about inbreeding, if it comes to livestock, obviously if you keep inbreeding within the one breed very closely, it can lead to deformities and stunted growth and all that. And I presume it's actually the same with potatoes and other crops, that breeders will try to crossbreed as close as they can to emphasise a particular trait,
Yeah, yeah.
but they always run the risk of going too close to that line and getting a deformed animal rather than a prime specimen.
Okay.
If they're breeding for, we'd say, muscle development for beef,
Yeah.
and they try breeding quite close with a relation which would be a couple of lines down on the maternal side or the paternal side, whatever. And if it goes well, great, they've got a more muscular animal. But if it goes badly, it's a different trait that is emphasised, and it goes haywire. And I presume that's what they're worried about with crops
You
as
see,
well.
one of the problems with GM is that it's not necessarily you bypass or you take a shortcut from the actual breeding process, and you just tamper with the DNA to get what you want.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. Which
It's a bit like the financial institutions. It's higher stakes.
yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yes.
And I have to say, there are no higher stakes than food, particularly potatoes in Ireland.
So what would happen, Daniel, if this happened to the potato? Like, what would happen? Like, what's going to happen to the potato if it gets
Well, I
bred
mean,
like
if it
this?
was 50 years down the road and we only had GM crops in this country, if they started to mutate, or if they had a defect,
So the food chain
would collapse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, our potato will collapse. But the other issue about it is the whole, Ireland's green
The
food
ecosystem
that
is
you-
affected,
yes.
presumably. Yeah, it's
Well,
not just
there's
that
the
plant.
ecosystem,
Yeah.
But
It's
then
all
there's
the
also
animals
the
or
fact
all the
that
insects.
part of our economy is based on that whole agricultural tourism, green agriculture, that kind of eco stuff. Image,
We've
which
destroyed
we're
it
trying to
with this.
perpetuate.
Yeah, I know the organic sector in particular are very anti these
GM.
trials.
Yeah.
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 GM.
Because of their reputation is obviously built, and they're afraid of possible cross.
Well, they said it'll be conducted in carefully controlled conditions, but we'll see.
So were the bankers.
Financial regulators
So were
in
the
control.
bankers.
Yeah.
Controlled conditions. Okay, so we're just going to go on to the next one, which is about unemployment of under 25s at almost 40%. This is taken from the indo.ie. CSO figures out. Isn't that unbelievable?
Shocking.
40% of people under 25
That's all the college
are
grads.
unemployed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think that's awful.
Actually, I think the shocking figure here is, and this is something completely new to me, but it was shocking. everybody says, oh, computers, it's the big thing, computers are great. Go and study computers, it's a solid future. Unemployment within computers companies rose by 15% to 41,000. So it is consolidating that. It is, it's the new become a banker or become a priest, you're set for life. Back in the old days, become a computer technician, you've got it.
Okay. So there's not much more we can say about that except that it's
what
pretty
do our
grim.
guests think?
Well, I'll actually give you another statistic from another paper. I think it was last week's edition, the Irish Farmers Journal, where in farming, the age profile, there are actually more farmers over 80 years of age than under 35.
Oh, really?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Now, what happens when those farmers begin to pass away? That's
In some cases, the next generation have other interests or see a better lifestyle or better income.
The
And
younger generation had gone back into farming.
that's a very recent thing in the last couple of years, but prior to that, when there were a lot more opportunities seen as more profitable, exciting opportunities over the last maybe 10, 15 years, a lot of that generation didn't, and that's probably why the successors for that didn't take the farm.
There's an opportunity there for younger people as well to diversify and to really look at what they're good at, whatever it might be. If they're a good photographer, maybe they could be taking wedding photographs, or and working on a sort of freelance basis rather than looking for that secure job, because they just don't really exist.
They don't, and I think you see more of that. The number of new businesses that are starting up
online.
Exactly. But the difficulty for that is that a lot of young people wouldn't really have the knowledge about how to do that. Set up that business.
Yeah, so they need to be encouraged.
Yeah.
They need that kind of support.
Yeah, I mean, but 40%, it's just the other thing. The other side of it is it actually that young people are also better at being unemployed than older people. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot more. There's a lot more out there to do. So when you're not working, actually, there's loads you can be doing. You could be messing on the web, you can be Facebooking, you can be knocking around. Actually,
but it's still difficult. It's still a difficult position to be in.
I agree, but if you're unemployed maybe 10 years ago, there was nothing to do. But now you can be playing games, you can be playing games with your friends in Scotland, your online friends. Actually, it's just not quite.
But the rise in youth crime and antisocial behaviour doesn't really indicate that.
It's still demoralising to
Like, I've got nieces and nephews that they've just come out of college now. Like, one in particular is a social worker, and she can't get a job at all. She's tried everything, placements, work for nothing placements, and it's really soul destroying for them. It's soul destroying for them. And most young people do go to college nowadays. It's not like 20 years ago you did your leaving cert maybe and you hoped for a job in a shop or something, or a factory or whatever. That was good. But now everybody has a qualification of some kind, and they're not getting.
And they also probably have debts from college as well that they have to tackle on top of that.
Okay, so we're going to end up with a happy note.
Oh,
because
thank
we
God.
just want you
I was really running out
to
there.
vote for the CSPCA. What does that stand for?
The Cavan Society of Protection
Cruelty
to Animals. Prevention of cruelty to animals. Protection of cruelty to animals. How does that sound?
And I was trying to make this a happy story.
That's my secret organisation. I go around killing kittens. No.
Allegedly.
So they have an annual calendar, and they're asking all of the public in Cavan to vote on your favourite pictures for the calendar.
There's some really nice ones
Cute
there.
ones,
So there's some.
I hope
really
none of
cute
them
ones.
get killed in the meantime, and they'll be on the
Oh, look.
calendar.
Happy
Your dog was
Happy
squashed
story.
the next week, and you're there on the calendar for July next year. That would be sad.
Be easy to photocopy.
Guy, what are we going to be doing this week? We'll start with you, Becky.
Well, can I read my fishy tale before
do.
while we're on the subject of animals? This is from the 1962 Celt. I'll just read a little bit of it. The fishing story of the season was recounted across the region this week, where Mr. Desmond McGovern of the Square Ballybay went to the local Dromore River to get a bucket full of drinking water for his pigs, and returned with a 6.5 pound salmon.
This is an amazing story, isn't it? I wish it was that easy.
Fisherman's
Okay, so what are you doing this weekend?
Celia Richard has an exhibition on in the library in Ballybor.
Oh, right.
I know her because she models at the Moth Studios, so I'm looking forward to going and seeing her work there.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Okay, Charlie, quickly.
I have to say the bat conservation actually catches my eye because I actually did that a couple of years ago, and it's very, very interesting. Lovely way for an excuse for a nice ramble along a river or somewhere like
in
that.
the evening.
Catherine's doing it.
lovely.
Enjoy
Yeah.
that.
Myself and my son did it one year.
Good. Anya?
Okay, so being a Ballinall woman originally, I'm going out to Ahalura Brusky, where they're having a festival, a festival this weekend,
Okay.
and it's starting off with a mass. It's going to be all over the weekend. There's going to be dinner dance. Going to be a dinner dance in the grounds of the school in a big marquee tent. There's going to be Saturday. We'll see a duck race on the River Erin and a soapbox
Wow.
derby.
That'll keep you busy.
Well,
Okay, well, just like to thank everybody for watching us. Thank the Irish Times, the Anglo-Celt and the Independent.
and
.ie.
I'd just like to thank Kate because it's her final show with us on Cavan TV. She'll be back, though, as a guest, I'm sure. But she's been a fantastic, fantastic host here on Cavan TV. And we'll see you again soon.
Okay.
Very soon. Very
Thank
soon.
you. Enjoy.
So, thanks, folks.